Welcome everyone to another episode of StableSchool podcast. I'm Raza, your host, head of growth at Scroll, and I'm here today with Vincent from FDUSD. Vincent, welcome.
Thank you. Really happy to be here.
Yeah, thanks for being here. Can you give a short intro about yourself and then FDUSD?
Sure. Vincent Chok. I am the founder and CEO of First Digital. We are known for issuing right now the third largest fiat-backed stablecoin called FDUSD. I am based in Hong Kong, but I am Canadian.
Oh, wow. Okay, cool. I didn't actually know that. Yeah. Can you tell me a little bit more about why did you start First Digital FDUSD?
I think the reason why we really wanted to issue a stablecoin is because we saw that in Hong Kong, HKMA, the regulators were looking at doing guidelines and a paper around regulation around stablecoins. So we want to kind of jump ahead of the curve. So what we thought, hey, what best? And we had the great jurisdiction infrastructure with our trust to set up and to issue FDUSD. So we just kind of wanted to see, get ahead of the curve. And luckily we did because, a year after we launched, stablecoin just pretty much exploded in a good way.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. They have definitely taken off. You can see the market grow and grow and grow. I think that today I heard a number that like 20 trillion, addressable market. People go all sorts of growth opportunities that are here in this market.
Last year alone, I think there was over $28 trillion of stablecoin transactions.
Wow.
28. That's more than Visa and MasterCard combined.
Yeah, it's pretty insane, but also actually very logical. I mean, if you think about the benefits of the flow, the efficiency of capital moving left to right, it makes sense. Maybe to get your take on it, is there a particular reason you focus on the Asian market first, or?
Well, we think that Asia, particularly for stablecoin, is really important that we focus on and look for people that needs to use the stable coin. And those are emerging markets or under non-developed countries, which banking is a problem, right? So, you're serving the non or underbanked, and stable coin is a great way for them to either savings or make payments or just at least have something that they can keep and maybe put it into earn products or just buy, investments in the future in crypto.
Yeah. So, when you look at, let's say, the rise of stablecoins, what's being a differentiator, people are coming with novel designs. They're coming with yield bearing or yield distribution. And so a couple of questions in that angle. I think, how much do you think brand or first mover advantage to brand matters?
Well, in this case, it's really important, and it did matter because you see the largest in the market, which is the fiat-backed stablecoin, is Tether.
Yeah.
They are double the size of the next stablecoin. So we know it's actually first mover advantage is important because of the credibility it brings to people, so people know it. So now there's a lot of new stablecoins coming, but there's very creative types that are giving yield, and those stablecoins are actually a security. So, but they're not actually backed one-to-one in the sense that it's great to leverage over spot trade for trading or just so that hedging. So if it's not one-to-one, it's really difficult to hedge against the volatility or the ups and downs of the crypto industry. So we think that a fiat-backed stablecoin is probably the most useful, safe, because you can have full visibility back one-to-one to a dollar. That's also invested in very safe treasuries.
So if you look at, let's say, FDUSD, what's your stance on transparency and safeguards for fiat-backed versus let's say yield bearing?
We are very transparent. We have to be. We use third-party credited auditors to do attestation so that every dollar is attested for. We know exactly where it's at, where it's invested at. So transparency, that's the key for people to gain people's trust in this business. But as far as how we're safeguarding it, it's really putting, mitigating the risk by having a trust structure where it's dual balance sheet. If anything happens to the company, the balance sheet of the actual client account, which is the stablecoin, is safe. So in Hong Kong, under that, if there's any bankruptcy or insolvency of the company, the Hong Kong government will come and take over and appoint a new trustee for the assets. So those are little things that a lot of people may not know about how we put safeguards in place.
Yeah, and that matters. So it's sort of like a bailout system.
Ring fencing and making sure, or what we call bankruptcy remote, or
No, that is actually super important. Slightly unrelated, but as a tangent, spoke today with S&P Global and other like standard makers, and they're noticing that like obviously a stablecoin is not a stablecoin, and then the risks associated with a stablecoin is not the risks associated like one-to-one with every stablecoin. I think that people have been burned with that before, but I think that that's going to be a major differentiator. It's very fancy to see like 40, 60, 80% yield, but what is the risk that's associated with it? So I can only like attest to that. Like, yes, for sure. That's what's your take on how do you market that?
Well, we have to work with we're a B2B stablecoin, so we issue to other corporates and businesses so that then they can distribute it themselves to their clients in the retail market. But marketing itself, of course, we have to work with companies and different chains to create incentives and to work with them to see how we can integrate into their community to make the community feel like, okay, this is a great product. We're very proud to have it on a chain that we support. So working closely with our partners is important. Getting on exchanges, CFIs, DEXs, market makers, and also incorporating our stablecoin into different products. Like we're on Launchpool and Binance, different perpetuals on other exchanges. So it's going to take some time to grow it, but I think we're on the right path.
Yeah, I've been seeing FDUSD grow actually quite a bit, and maybe like a segue there is like how we talk about the first mover advantage. You obviously have Tether. Circle. How do you take on these giants?
We have our own niche market. Like I think we all know where, how Tether is being used globally and by exchanges, by, just people builders. But we're more, I think, aligned or closer to what USDC is. However, we're focusing on another, market, which is Southeast Asia and emerging markets, and really looking at payment spaces and how do we do cross-border remittance settlements. So, and also maybe, in the future, we want to have FDUSD sort of that base stablecoin currency to convert to other FX or foreign exchange type of currencies.
Gotcha. And so, when you talk about that kind of distribution, well, how do you view the multi-chain universe?
Actually, I haven't really thought too much about the multi-chain. But it's important for us to get on a lot of the bigger and growing chains. Like we're on Sui, we're on Solana, we're on BNB, of course, Ethereum. So we're trying to always see, how we can serve sort of the community with the chains that they want.
Gotcha. Yeah, that makes sense. And so, the newest trend, or not so new trend, but something that's been taken off for a while are yield-bearing stablecoins. Are you thinking that it's First Digital thinking about a yield-bearing version, or how do you view it?
It's very difficult because, like I said earlier, yield-bearing stablecoins are security, so it's not you can't market that unless you're licensed in that particular jurisdiction. But people can actually provide yield on our stablecoin in the secondary market on their own. So, for example, Binance puts out FDUSD, and there's earn products on Binance, and there's also a lot of earn products generating yield on DEXs. And, of course, there's people lending out FDUSD and generating returns and interest. So the yield itself by an issuer if you're providing yield as an issuer, that's not something that we're doing or we want to do because it's a security, and it's a very fine line to really tread.
Yeah, yeah, I can imagine. I think that right now, with all the noise, I just said it with our previous guest. It seems like stablecoins are becoming a wrapper for like financial products and for DeFi strategies, but like, it's called a stablecoin, but it doesn't necessarily like act, or is it actually a stablecoin like you're, in a more, if you can call it a traditional sense, where it's meant to be a fiat-backed or like a different mechanism, but it's like a digital dollar, right?
Yeah, I think the definition of stablecoin, because there's several types. There's algorithmic stablecoins. You have the crypto-backed stablecoin, which is backed by Bitcoin, and then you have the combo, maybe the mixed type of crypto stablecoin, which is backed by Bitcoin, Ethereum, and other stablecoins like USDT or FDUSD. So, but the most natural, of course, stablecoins are going to be the US dollar backed one-to-one fiat reference stablecoins, because that's where stability is. That's where, there's no up and down. It follows the price of the US dollars.
Do you see room and space for local stablecoins?
I do. I think local stablecoins are very important, because people are not going to be spending US dollar in their grocery stores if they're not living in the US, right? So people are going to need their local currency, and I think the local stablecoins can be a great way of integrating that stablecoin into payment systems within the country.
And is First Digital thinking about like local stablecoins, or is it just like focus on USD for it?
I think we are set up to issue different currencies.
Okay. Wow.
We can hold over 20. We have native currencies. However, we think there has to be use cases and there has to be demand for it, right? So the king right now of stablecoin is the US dollar back, but we know that UAE, there's people going to issue dirham stablecoin soon. We see other countries. Well, I mean, we've managed other stablecoins in the past, both in GBP, Hong Kong dollars, Australian, Canadian. So yeah, but really, I think it has to be used. There has to be a demand for those stablecoins.
Yeah,
and in some cases, it's really challenging as well. It's because some countries are very developed in their sense of e-money payments, so payment systems. Like for example, you go to Japan, go into the Family Mart, or there's like 30 ways to pay through your phones or through some sort of e-wallets. So stablecoin may not be sort of the most efficient way for those if people can directly withdraw and make payments to their bank accounts electronically, right?
Yeah. That is such a good argument, actually. I do not remember which Central Asian country it was. I recall it might be China, where now with WeChat, you don't even need your phone on anymore. You can like Palm ID it or Face ID, and then you can pay.
Yeah. So it's really crazy how advanced China is in that sense.
Yeah.
I mean, they have grocery stores where there's no employees. You just walk in, take your items, and walk out, and just debits and credits.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah. So I can imagine in that sense, like that would be like less useful. In those cases. Talking about use cases, what are like the main use cases or destination there is today for FDUSD?
Well, we want to really support and work with more crypto industry builders. We want to get into really work on more different chains. I think the exchanges are important, but also the DEXs. DeFi is going to be there's going to be a big market for people on DeFi that's going to be using stable coins for products. So, but for us, of course, those are sort of the areas that we want to grow in the crypto industry. But for payments, we think that what we mentioned earlier, to have the ability for FDUSD to convert to, say, FD Ren or an FD, Rupiah or something instantly, that would be something that we see potentially happening in the near future, as well as going into those markets for payments that doesn't have those advanced electronic payment systems that's already in play in other countries.
Yeah. I mean, that makes sense. I think that, payments is what fascinates me the most, I think, right now, especially for stablecoins. And so, with Scroll, we have EtherFi Cash now. And I think that the next step is how do we like onboard stablecoins like FDUSD? And then, what we provide is like distribution, but also utility. So now you can like hold FDUSD, for instance, and then you have a credit card.
Yep.
And you get to spend it. And, so I think that that's going to be the next stage. Yeah.
Yeah. It's like, we like to work with chains that are very innovative. Like, you see really the advancement of where the RWA market is going. So give you an example, tokenized real estate. Somebody had a tokenized real estate and they rent out that particular real estate, and the rental income comes in a form of a stable coin, and that can be then directly deposited into all of the token holders of those RWAs. So you can do this through your traditional smart contracts, or maybe just your NFTs, where the rental yield is built in because you rent it out for, let's say, $5,000 a month, and that's set for 2 years. So the rental yield is automatically set, and then you can build that into these smart contracts that's going to pay you a stable coin. So it's just, you don't even need to do anything and just collect your yield.
Real sources of yield. Yeah, that's something like I always say I'm a bit boring, but I love actually hearing real sources of yield.
Yeah.
And I think that in 2022 we heard like loads of examples of where like fractional ownership, etc., etc. But it's always like half of the story. It wasn't like never end to end. I do think it's very like I'm not sure. I've heard of some protocols that do this, but no one has. I've not seen anyone executing end to end yet. Yeah,
because most protocols are actually distributing back their own tokens.
Yeah,
right.
True.
But in this case, you want a stable coin because it's actually real money, dollars that they can convert back to fiat, or they can spend.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I think, stablecoin is very much at the heart of it.
Yeah, it's what I call, I've used this example, but I think stablecoin is like oxygen. Without oxygen, it's like liquidity. If you don't have oxygen, you can't breathe. So if there's no liquidity with stablecoin, a lot of trades can't be done, and OTCs, exchanges. Yeah, it's just very difficult to do pairings when both sides is too ups and down and volatile. So it's why stablecoin provides that oxygen, that leverage, that stability.
You mentioned cross-border payments for FDUSD, like that's a use case, that's a focus for First Digital. Is it today like something that's already used for cross-border, or how is it? How do you facilitate that?
Yeah, there's people that's using it. Like we don't, we're not the ones that are building platforms for people to do the cross-border. Our job is very simple. Market makers wants FDUSD, they transfer fiat dollars to us, and we mint it and we give it to them. And how they deploy it, it's very simple. Our job is to safekeep, making sure that the reserves are in place, invested properly into cash and cash equivalent products, and also making sure that on the mints, it's timely, and when people want to redeem, that there's no delays in them redeeming and getting their US dollar or fiat-backed dollars. And so for cross-border, how you move the FDUSD between countries for payments, for trades, or for whatever people use it for, services, for example, they can then need to have off-ramps or places that they can rely on. And that's where payment companies are incorporating FDUSD into that. We work with some, partners now to help integrate FDUSD into their payments ecosystem, where their clients are globally.
Gotcha. FDUSD 5 years ahead. Where is FDUSD at?
So, Citibank, Standard Chartered Bank, a lot of them have predicted the growth of stablecoins within the next 5 years. So right now we're at approximately $250 billion. So their prediction is that it's going to $3 trillion by 2030. So just in 5 years, so just by the organic growth projection that has been predicted, we feel that we have to 5x at least within our market cap, but that's just, numbers. We think that there's going to be a lot of room for strong, competent stablecoins. So there's going to be also a lot more competition coming. We think but they all have their special markets and special target niches that they're going to aim for. So, we're not here to be the top and the biggest. I think that, like I said, people have their preference, right? They want to use a certain stablecoin. They have a choice, but we want to be sort of the most consistent. We want to be the most, reliable stablecoin out there for not only the crypto industry, but also for the traditional investment, traditional TradFi industry.
How do you market yourself towards like the traditional industry? Because do you tell you're a cryptocurrency, or do you say I'm a digital dollar? Like, how do you go out there?
Marketing yourself to these companies or to the industry is really depending on how you perform. People want to see. They need to stress test your stablecoin. They need to make sure that, hey, these guys can redeem what they say they can redeem. Hey, these guys, everything that they told us is invested in those particular instruments. So it's about, it's going to take time for people to feel comfortable. But then, once you become that reliable stablecoin, then those companies, the bigger TradFi players will then incorporate you into their funds, into their products. When VCs, if they need to invest, they'll use stablecoin to invest, or they'll receive payments through, their distributions or dividends through stablecoins. So yeah, it's still very early days if you think about it. Yes, we know Tether's been around for a while, Circle's been around for a while, but 250 billion compared to what, in 5 years, 33 trillion. That's when sort of the next growth cycle will come. And this is where we're going to, 2x, 3x quite quick, but it's still relatively a young market.
Yeah. And so your strategy for First Digital is all revolving around a solid track record, B2B, making sure that you're reliable, credible, secure. And that's like the market that you're going after.
And also, we want to be regulated in proper jurisdictions that can help. Like, we're very excited about being in the UAE. We've talked to regulators here, both ADGM and VAR. We know that they're a very different type of regulators. They like to work with the industry. They want to learn a little bit more about our business and how they can help. Whereby, some regulators in different parts of the world are more policing than they are assessing and helping the industry grow. So we see, I was at the ADGM forum, and it was great. I mean, it was a very positive energy, and they welcome people to come here because they gave us a very good sense that this is the place that our industry can grow and excel, and they gave us a plan on how they would assist the players to do that. It's going to benefit both the companies and also the country.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with ADGM. I think that what ADGM did very well is address concerns and establish trust. I think that regulation is always very tricky, because how do you trust? Like, regulation doesn't just move ahead; it moves. It can move in both directions.
Yeah.
And I think that ADGM does a very they showcase very well what they do and do not understand, and they're also translate and communicate very well their effort. Well,
they're a young organization right now. UAE is still a very, I think it's a very young country, but the growth of the country is just so fast,
phenomenal. Yeah.
Yeah. So the regulators needs to keep up, and they need to also make sure that they're doing it right. They're setting the right infrastructure in place, foundation, so that when companies do come, that it can really manage the demands of what companies need and what products are being put out there through their regulations, through their jurisdictions.
Yeah.
So we're the same, right? We think exactly what you said. We need to build up that trust. We need to build up that with stress testing our products and making sure that we deliver.
And so you've spoken about the expected growth of the industry. What is, maybe as some closing remarks, like what are you most excited about, like that's ahead? Like we mentioned a little bit about regulation, the market growth, but what else are you excited about when it comes to the stablecoin space?
I'm really excited to see that not only crypto industry is embracing stablecoin, but other industry in the world is actually now looking at how stablecoin can make their business more efficient. So we see there's a lot of movement in the Visa, MasterCard space to get into the stablecoin business and incorporating stablecoins into their existing business. I'm really excited to see how we can now help the underbanks, that people, the persons living maybe somewhere in the jungles of Sarawak that doesn't have access to bank account but has Wi-Fi. But now they can actually start, creating a financial footprint through stablecoins, so that stablecoin can start saving money for them. They don't have to hide cash under their mattress anymore. So, I'm really excited to see how this is going to evolve into just, a global tool, if you want to say, a financial tool to really, we have to see, we have to keep up with the times. And if we don't, we're just going to fall behind. So I think the stablecoin is going to be one of those important tools that people need.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think that one of the things that I'm most excited about is banking the debanked. It's, both my parents from the global south. And if you go, it's very interesting. You'll go to rural areas and people will have a smartphone. Like you said, Wi-Fi, internet is available. They won't have a credit card or a debit card, which means that insurance is very difficult for them. So it's,
It's really important that the exchanges, the industry does support stable coins and the payment systems that we're building on. Because if they do that, stablecoin gets into the people's wallet that doesn't have bank accounts and that are sitting in places that generally is, very secluded.
Yeah.
Those same people now can actually trade on exchanges, right? They can set up accounts now. They have a different class of client that are just vastly, available and untouched.
Yeah, or whole market untapped.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So, and that starts with a stable coin. And of course, maybe Wi-Fi, if you have Starlink, that could help. I don't know.
Honestly, yeah. But you're spot on. Again, you said something that I was actually stumbled upon only a few weeks ago. I was thinking, hey, pretty well. I've been actually to different countries in Africa, and when you go to areas, rural areas, and you're like, hey, but everyone's walking around with a smartphone. Everyone's walking around you just have internet. And it works.
Because that's kind of their lifeline, right? That's their communications to the rest of the world, to their families, to if that's what they have. That's probably the most valuable thing people have these days is their phones, because everything is kept on it, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
It's the new age. As closing remark, anything that you want to share, that you're excited about First Digital, anything that's new coming around the corner?
No, I'm really excited just how we're at Dubai Token 2049. Just the buzz around here and the excitement, and I think to be part of just that industry that is just growing so fast. I'm really excited to be part of that. Yeah.
Well, Vincent, thank you so much for joining.
My pleasure.
I think what's refreshing to me that I just want to say is your calm and consistent strategy. I think that in an industry that's making a lot of noise, saying, "Oh well, we're gonna be the credible, secure, consistent brand, with a track record, and we're gonna grow." It's actually it's pretty refreshing to hear.
No, we really want to be that stable coin.
Yeah. Great ending. Thanks so much for joining.